Welcome to the official channel of Prosper Anang Ministries. Step into a powerful journey of faith, inspiration, and spiritual growth with Pastor Prosper, a privileged servant of Jesus. As the lead pastor of the New Testament Gospel Church in Benin City, Nigeria, Pastor Prosper is on a global mission to transform lives. He is an author, writer, fluently sharing God's Word, deep, life-changing insights right to your screen. If you are seeking spiritual guidance, a vibrant faith with God, you are in the right place.
Welcome to today's deep dive. Usually when we think about a sudden outburst of anger, we treat it like dropping a glass in the kitchen.
Right, yeah.
It shatters, it's incredibly loud, and for a split second, it creates this massive, chaotic mess.
But then you grab the dustpan, you sweep up the shards, maybe apologize to whoever was startled by the noise, and, well, the event is essentially over.
Exactly.
The mess feels completely contained to the floor in that specific fleeting moment.
And we find a lot of psychological comfort in framing our tempers that way, don't we? As these momentary lapses.
Oh, absolutely. A quick flash in the pan, a temporary spike in blood pressure, and then we just return to our baseline.
But today, we're exploring some fascinating insights drawn from the Today's Word for You devotional by Pastor Prosper Anang.
Yes, a really brilliant piece of teaching.
Because his piece, which is titled The Anger That Costs a Lineage, it completely shatters that broken glass analogy.
It really does. When you delve into the psychology of leadership, of parenting, and of long-term behavioral consequences, you realize we are looking at a landscape of cause and effect that is vastly more intimidating.
Yeah.
The mess, as it turns out, is rarely just on the floor.
It acts as the ultimate hidden cost.
Yeah.
And the core argument Pastor Prosper Anang unpacks here is that uncontrolled anger is almost never contained to the fraction of a second it is released.
No, it reaches forward.
It reaches forward. It extracts a massive structural penalty from your future, and rather terrifyingly, from the generations and the teams that follow you.
And what's crucial to note here right at the start is that while this text is deeply rooted in biblical teachings, that the dynamics of human behavior it explores are universal.
Spot on. Whether you are leading a church group, running a corporate team, or just trying to raise your kids, this applies to you.
Absolutely.
So to really understand this hidden cost, we need to examine the primary case study, the devotional presence. It is an ancient story, but the psychology behind it is so intensely modern that it almost stings to read.
It does sting. We are looking at Moses in the book of Numbers, chapter 20.
Right. So let me just paint the picture of his psychological state at this exact moment. Moses has been leading this massive, highly stubborn, completely ungrateful nation of people through a hostile desert wilderness.
And he hasn't been doing this for a few hard weeks.
No.
He has been doing it for 40 years.
40 years.
That timeline is the crucial piece of context that so often gets overlooked. 40 years of high-stress leadership, managing constant complaints, mediating disputes, navigating literal survival scenarios.
He is not a fresh, energetic leader on day one of an exciting new startup.
Not at all. He is experiencing terminal burnout. He is worn down to the absolute bone, dealing with a group of people who are complaining about water for what feels like the 100th time.
The exhaustion is palpable. You can feel it. And in the midst of this crisis, God gives Moses a highly specific yet very simple instruction regarding a rock that will provide water.
A very clear directive.
He tells Moses to speak to the rock. Just use his words.
But Moses is so deeply entrenched in his frustration that the instruction gets completely overridden by his emotional state.
Yeah, he gathers the people together, and he doesn't just speak. He actively calls them out. He yells, "Here now, you rebels, shall we bring water for you out of this rock?"
He actually inserts himself into the miracle with that word, we.
Yes, and then in a moment of sheer, blinding rage, he takes his physical rod and strikes the rock. Not once, but twice.
He opts for visible physical frustration over simple obedience. And, when you analyze the cognitive process of anger, striking an object provides an immediate visceral release of pent-up cortisol and adrenaline.
It feels good in the moment.
Exactly. Speaking requires calm. It requires faith and cognitive restraint. Striking is a physical manifestation of a leader deciding that their exhaustion justifies abandoning the protocol.
Wow.
It is disobedience dressed up as righteous indignation.
But the wild part of this story, the part that trips up so many leaders and parents today, is the immediate aftermath. Water still comes out.
Right. The rock practically gushes water.
The people drink, the livestock drink, the crisis is averted. The immediate visible result looks like a total operational success.
And that is the most deceptive trap of all. Because the immediate crisis was solved, the human brain assumes the method was validated.
It is the exact equivalent of a director blowing up at their team in a morning meeting, completely losing their temper, hurling insults.
But the team scrambles and still hits the quarterly sales target that afternoon?
Spot on. The director looks at the spreadsheet, sees the green numbers, and assumes they got away with the outburst. They assume the water flowing means the toxic behavior was an acceptable management strategy.
Meanwhile, a devastating hidden cost was just incurred.
Yes.
The devotional points out the spiritual and practical fallout that follows. God speaks to Moses and Aaron and essentially says, "Because you did not believe in me, and because you failed to represent my character, to sanctify me in the eyes of the people, you will not bring this assembly into the promised land."
It's heartbreaking.
It is. The text identifies this as a foundational scriptural law. Anger expressed in disobedience doesn't just cost a moment of dignity. It costs access to the very promise that a person's life labor was building toward.
Moses lost the culmination of a 40-year investment over a 10-second outburst.
A 40-year investment evaporated in 10 seconds of lost temper.
That ratio is just staggering. But, Moses' punishment makes absolute sense in a biblical, high-stakes desert scenario where he is talking directly to the divine.
Yes.
But the text argues this isn't just an ancient penalty, right? It's a structural, psychological law that applies to us today.
It absolutely is.
So how does that hidden cost actually trigger in a modern boardroom or a living room where we aren't literally striking rocks?
Well, the translation into our daily lives is captured perfectly in a specific quote from the text. Pastor Prosper Anang's quote for today's devotional is, and I'll read it exactly as written, "Uncontrolled anger does not only burn the moment you release it in, it can burn the inheritance you were meant to walk into and hand down."
Burn the inheritance you were meant to walk into. I mean, we really do treat our temper like a private, contained issue.
We do.
If I lose my temper in traffic or snap aggressively at my partner after a long day, I tend to categorize it like a speeding ticket.
Right, yeah.
You get caught going a little too fast, you pay a quick fine, you feel a brief pang of guilt, and then you just drive on with your life.
But this concept of burning an inheritance implies a much more permanent structural damage.
It does. It sounds less like a speeding ticket and more like a quiet lien being placed against your future home.
A lien is the perfect modern equivalent. When a lien is placed on a property, it doesn't kick you out of the house today.
No.
You don't even notice it while you're going about your daily routine. The water is still flowing from the taps, so to speak.
Your team is still hitting their targets. Your family is still eating dinner together.
Exactly. But when you finally go to close on that house, when you try to step into the fullness of that property or that promotion or that deeply connected relationship you've been working towards,
You suddenly find your access is legally blocked.
spot on. The cost was accruing in the background the entire time, hidden behind the illusion of everyday normalcy. Uncontrolled anger attaches itself to whatever your life's assignment is currently pointing toward.
And we defend those liens so fiercely.
Oh, defensively.
We justify the outbursts because the feeling of anger is usually valid.
Yeah.
Moses had a legitimate right to be frustrated. The people were being awful and ungrateful.
Very true.
If my team deliberately ignores my instructions for the 10th time, or my toddler throws their dinner on the floor after I've had a 10-hour workday, the feeling of anger is entirely justified.
The feeling is valid, yes. But Pastor Prosper Anang's text draws a hard line between the validity of the emotion and the destruction of the reaction.
That's a great distinction.
The justification of the feeling does not erase the structural damage of the outburst. You can be 100% right in your assessment of a situation and still burn your own inheritance by how you choose to process that friction.
Which brings us to the most intimidating part of this entire deep dive.
Right.
If this unmanaged anger places a lien on our personal future, How does it leap from our individual ledger to costing our lineage?
The contagion effect.
Yes. The title is The Anger That Costs a Lineage. We're crossing the bridge here from personal consequence to generational consequence.
The devotional introduces a second biblical anchor to explain this transmission, referencing Proverbs chapter 22. It serves as a stark warning label for human relationships.
What is it?
It states that you should not befriend a hot-tempered person or associate with one who harbors anger, lest you learn his ways and ensnare your soul.
Lest you learn his ways. You know, when we hear the word generational in a spiritual or religious context, it is so easy to imagine some mystical, unavoidable curse.
Like a spooky, invisible cloud hanging over a family tree because of a mistake a great-grandfather made 50 years ago.
Exactly. But the text is pointing to a mechanism that is grounded in pure behavioral psychology. It isn't a magical hex.
Not at all. It is systemic behavioral transmission through proximity. It is observational learning. Solomon's proverb is highlighting that proximity to harbored anger is never neutral. It actively teaches.
It teaches, wow.
It is much more akin to black mold in a house's ventilation system. You don't necessarily see the spores, and the person living there doesn't intentionally breathe them in, but over time, everyone in the building starts coughing.
Lest you learn his ways, the environment itself becomes the curriculum.
Precisely. Let's look at the mechanics of how a child processes a parent's anger. A father is dealing with the normal, minor frustrations of life. The Wi-Fi drops out during an important task, and he explodes.
Throws his mouse, shouts at the screen, slams the desk.
Right, or a driver cuts him off in traffic, and he goes into a 5-minute tirade. The family might have developed a coping mechanism for this, quietly telling each other, oh, just stay out of Dad's way when he's like this, it's just how he is.
They normalize the mold in the vents.
Yes, but the child watching this isn't just witnessing an isolated moment of anger. Their developing brain is absorbing a highly specific algorithm for how to handle the friction of life.
Yeah, they are mapping that explosive reaction as the baseline standard for processing inconvenience.
They are learning his ways without a single lecture ever being given. They grow into adults who, without ever consciously choosing to do so, replicate that exact same pattern in their own homes, passing the cost down another generation.
And that applies just as cleanly to corporate culture.
Absolutely.
If you have a CEO or team leader who normalizes screaming when deadlines are tight, the junior staff don't just observe that and think, wow, what a unique personality trait.
No, they absorb it as the acceptable currency of authority in that building.
Right. They learn that to be a leader here, you must be explosive. The dysfunction becomes systemic.
When you think about it, we all have someone watching us. A child, a mentee, a spouse, a junior employee.
Yeah.
And the scary realization is that they aren't just watching you vent, they are taking detailed notes on how to survive stress. The text practically forces you to hold up a mirror and ask yourself, what are the people in my proximity quietly absorbing about how to navigate frustration?
It is a heavy mirror. And honestly, it brings up a genuine struggle because, like Moses, exhaustion is an inescapable reality of the human experience.
It is.
I am going to get burnt out. I am going to deal with unreasonable clients or chaotic situations. If I'm losing thousands of pounds because a server crashed, the frustration is going to spike.
Sure.
It feels like this text is asking us to be unfeeling robots, to just pretend we aren't mad while the world burns around us, which is impossible.
Well, the devotional anticipates that exact struggle. Pastor Prosper Anang's writing makes a brilliant and crucial distinction here. Moses was not punished for feeling worn down.
Okay.
God did not judge him for the internal emotion of frustration. He was judged for allowing that emotional spike to dictate his actions to the point of direct disobedience.
So the cost isn't incurred by the existence of the feeling.
Exactly. The cost is incurred in the gap between the feeling and the reaction.
The gap between the stimulus and the response.
Spot on. It is the difference between experiencing frustration and choosing rebellion. And this brings us to the central paradigm shift of the entire devotional.
Let's get into it.
If the goal isn't to become an unfeeling robot, how do we actually manage this? The text argues we have to move away from the concept of personality management and step into what it calls kingdom stewardship.
Kingdom stewardship. Okay, that sounds profound on paper.
Right.
But when that server crashes and my adrenaline is surging, how does thinking I'm a steward actually stop me from throwing my coffee mug across the room? What is the real-time cognitive mechanism there?
It's all about focus. Personality management is internally focused. When you are just managing your personality, your internal dialogue in that high-stress moment is, I need to stop yelling because it makes me look foolish, or I should calm down so my blood pressure doesn't spike.
Right, which goes out the window when you're angry.
That internal motivation is notoriously weak against a flood of adrenaline. Stewardship, on the other hand, shifts your focus externally to the value of what you are protecting.
Ah, I see.
You aren't just trying to be a calmer person. You are actively stewarding an assignment that has been entrusted to you by God. You have a purpose, a family, a team, or a calling that you are meant to build and pass on.
So it changes the stakes at the moment. It elevates the conflict.
It changes the entire cognitive framing. When Moses was standing before that rock, if he was focused purely on his irritation with the people, striking the rock felt totally justified. It felt like a fair trade.
Yeah.
But if he had paused in that critical gap between feeling and action and focused on his assignment, getting those exact people safely into the promised land, he would have realized that indulging his anger for 10 seconds was going to cost him the next chapter of his life.
Wow.
Stewardship asks the question, is the temporary relief of this outburst worth the permanent price of my assignment?
Is it worth the price? I refuse to let a moment of unguarded anger cost me the inheritance I am building for my children.
Yes.
When you frame it like that, throwing the coffee mug suddenly looks incredibly expensive.
It does. And the devotional provides specific tools to help cement this mindset. It uses these speak life declarations.
Right.
One of the core declarations you can practically use to rewire your response is this: I am a steward of my assignment, not merely a manager of my temper.
I am a steward of my assignment, not merely a manager of my temper.
Exactly. I encourage you listening right now to personalize that and confess it regularly. When you internalize that identity, you stop fighting your anger just to be perceived as a quote-unquote good person, and you start actively governing your spirit to protect your destiny.
That is a remarkably empowering perspective.
Yeah.
Because, as the text notes, the intention here isn't to frighten you into a state of anxious paralysis where you are terrified of ever feeling annoyed.
Not at all.
It is meant to sober you into stewardship. Even with Moses, God still showed immense grace. He allowed Moses to go up to the mountaintop and see the promised land with his own eyes before he died.
The grace was present, but the consequence of the forfeited entry remained. The beauty of reading this today is that we are empowered to govern what Moses didn't.
We have the opportunity and the tools to intercept the black mold before it spreads. We can break those reactionary cycles before they become the default inheritance we hand down to the next generation.
And this is where we really want to encourage some personal reflection for you, the listener. If you are using this teaching in a small group or for personal discipleship, ask yourself, what challenged you most from today's lesson?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. How can this truth be applied this week?
What areas of your life need adjustment in light of this scripture? The goal is personal transformation.
We have covered so much critical ground today. We learned from the desert of Numbers chapter 20 that the immediate, visible result of an outburst can be incredibly deceiving.
Yes, just because the water flows or the quarterly target is hit does not mean the structural integrity of your future hasn't been compromised.
We unpacked how proximity to harbored anger silently acts as a curriculum for our followers, our children, and our teams.
An outburst is never just a moment of emotional release for the leader. It serves as a masterclass in dysfunction for anyone taking notes in the background.
And we discovered that the ultimate mechanism for breaking this cycle isn't found in a shallow self-help checklist for a sunnier personality. It requires fundamentally altering how we view our reactions through the lens of stewardship.
We have to fiercely protect the assignment we've been given, rather than indulging the exhaustion of the moment.
Absolutely.
And before we wrap up, there is one final, deeply provocative thought I want to leave you with. The devotional includes a section for further jurisdictional study, and it points directly to Galatians chapter 6, verse 7, which states the universal law that whatever a man sows, that he will also reap.
Yeah.
I want you to look at your reactions not merely as fleeting emotions, but as actual, tangible seeds. Every time you respond to intense pressure, every time you handle friction, you are actively planting a seed in the soil of your home or the soil of your workplace. If uncontrolled, explosive anger is the seed you are planting today, what exact crop is going to harvest 10 years from now in your lineage?
What a profound question to sit with. Are you planting a behavioral harvest that you actually want your kids or your employees to reap a decade down the line?
A sobering thought.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. A reminder that this teaching has been drawn entirely from the Today's Word for You devotional by Pastor Prosper Anang. If you want to explore these principles of stewardship and generational impact further, we highly recommend reading the full text.
It is a challenging piece of writing, but it is necessary for anyone who wants to build something that outlasts them.
It truly is. So as you navigate the inevitable frustrations and the difficult people in your week ahead, remember to throw away that broken glass analogy.
Yeah, stop sweeping the floor.
Right. Stop focusing your energy on just sweeping up the mess on the floor after you lose your temper. Focus your energy on protecting the house you're building for tomorrow. Keep stewarding your assignments well, and we'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.